Faces, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're working.
Oh.
Did you watch it? I was saying, I caught like some of it and it didn't so good. I mean, it looked like it was a fun time.
All right, everyone, we're going to get going here.
They do, they do.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of August 21st. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the first item on the agenda is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the submission of minutes, and we have the town council meeting minutes from July 31st, as well as the executive session minutes from July 31st.
Motion to approve?
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the public hearing, and this is B1. This is Zach Rivers for RIRO Enterprise, Inc., doing business as Judge Roy Bean Saloon on 1 State Street. This is a request for transfer of the Class BV liquor license to Cruz Golar Coca-Cola Culinary Consulting LLC, doing business as Judge Roy Bean Saloon. This is new ownership.
So as the clerk pointed out, this is a public hearing, and you beat me to it. Is there anyone here to speak in favor?
I represent the applicant, but I'd be happy for the public to speak prior to us giving our presentation.
So yes, that would be great. So I'm gonna ask the public to speak first, or anyone can speak. So if you're here to speak in favor, that is absolutely fine. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? And you said you were here for the applicant, correct?
Correct.
Please. I'm assuming you're speaking in favor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I wouldn't have a job for very much longer.
Outstanding. Go ahead.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Attorney Dane Ardente of the law firm Darrow Everett LLP, representing Corchula Culinary Consulting LLC. I have here with me the principal, Cruz Golar. This is the transferee of the liquor license for the Judge Roy Bean, currently held by RIRO Enterprises, Inc. This is just a simple transfer. We received police and fire approval. There was no disciplinary action currently on the existing license. This transfer will take place sometime on or around the actual transfer of the business. I welcome the council any questions or clarifications.
Council.
Just had a question. So
Yeah.
it's transfer of the business license. Is it also the building as well, or is the building still remaining in the original?
Building's being transferred, correct?
Building's being transferred as a separate real estate deal to another
Thank you.
entity, yeah.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Any other questions on the council? You are back on this agenda in a little bit and depending on how the public hearing goes, but any other questions for the council? No? All right. Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony as stated. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C1. This is ordinance 2024-14, Chapter 16, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 16-152, Curb Loading Zones. And this is to add a curb loading zone on the west side of Thames Street where the Robin Brugg Mill Building is, second reading.
I make a motion that we approve it.
Second?
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is C2. This is ordinance 2024-15, Chapter 16, Article 5, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 16-160. This is 2 dedicated parking spaces to access the urban coastal greenway located off Constitution Street. This is also near the Robin Rugg Building, and this is second reading.
Make a motion to approve it?
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is D1. This is Cruz Gola Coca-Cola Culinary Consulting LLC, doing business as Judge Roy Bean Saloon, 1 State Street. This is a request for transfer the Class BV liquor license.
Before we have discussion, could we get a motion from the council to combine D1, D2, D3, D4? Actually, that's it.
So
Motion made by Aaron, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So as if whatever this council decides to do, we just need to have that motion separate for each one of these items, but now we can discuss them all. It's a much more efficient way of doing it. So we were back to Madam Clerk. We were on D1, which was the request of the transfer of the license.
Correct.
Council?
Based on the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve with a 6-month review.
second?
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve, but including a 6-month review. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So now we're at, Madam Clerk.
D2, this is Cruz Gola Coca-Cola Culinary Consulting LLC, and this is for the request of vitrilling license.
Likewise, I make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next one is D3, and this is Cruz Gola Coca-Cola Culinary Consulting, doing business as Judge Roy Bean, and this is the request for the sidewalk use and alcohol service.
Based on the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve.
I second that with some discussion.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Discussion?
Yes, obviously, this is sidewalk. I just wish, just recommend that we being cautious in consider of the pedestrians, because that's always an issue. I know when I've had to walk my wife downtown occasionally in a wheelchair, it's not very easy to navigate through some of those areas. So I just, wish that you exercise consideration for the pedestrians.
And also, I think just making sure you keep it tidy and neat, clean up any rubbish, sort of things that is out there. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Don't leave, really, because we're on, so.
I'll just stay.
So we have a motion and a second, and I think it should go with those words. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So now we're on D4, right?
And D4 is Cruz Gola Coca-Cola Culinary Consulting LLC, doing business as Judge Roy Bean Salon, 1 State Street, and this is a request for dancing and entertainment license.
Speak to us about that, would you?
Yeah, so currently the business does some very small bands and other sort of entertainment, such as there's a comedy night and things like that. And my intention is to sort of continue that, nothing extremely rowdy or loud, and sort of in line with everything that's been done, which doesn't seem like it's too much of a disturbance to anyone. So,
Chief, no issues that you're aware of? That's a leading statement, I guess.
No, sir, there's been no issues at that establishment, but we do recommend a 6-month review so we could see what the entertainment catalyst is and report back to the council.
Excellent. Thanks, Chief. Council?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I make a motion, we approve it.
Okay.
Just amended the motion to include a 6-month review.
Correct.
So,
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So we have a motion from Tim, seconded by Tony. Go ahead.
It's just making sure that we do a review, a 6-month review right across the board and all the requests. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman.
Before we vote on this, we typically give a 30-second commercial. So you've taken, or you have now taken over the establishment. Would you like to tell everybody what you're doing there and where's it going?
yeah, definitely. I don't see too many familiar faces, but I grew up here in Bristol. I spent a large part of my career in New York City, and I've moved back here to raise a family. I live down the street, and so it's kind of been a dream of mine to sort of make something like this happen here in Bristol. So here we are. My intention in terms of the business is to keep the business model very much the same, but to sort of elevate the whole experience in a way and make it a little bit more of a culinary focus, as most of my background is I'm a chef by trade. So just looking forward to making something cool and, fun for the community, and
Sounds
happy
good.
to be here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Outstanding.
we're happy to have you.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome, and we wish you a lot of luck.
I appreciate it.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Exciting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I read that you were from Rhode Island, but I didn't realize Bristol.
I am. Yeah.
No,
I grew up on High Street. Yeah.
well, that's
Yeah.
where my neighborhood.
All right. We'll talk.
Oh, you were younger than I am, so that's why we're.
I'll give you my card once I have one.
So we had a motion and a second to approve, all of which, of course, with a 6-month, I should say, not necessarily, of course, we always do a 6-month review to make sure that there's no issues. In fact, we have something coming up that we're reviewing. So is there any other discussion from the council?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Great. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D5. This is Courtney Gurton from Ollie Palooza. This is a request for a one-day Sunday dancing and entertainment license for Sunday, October 13, 2024, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Cup Defenders.
Is Courtney here? No?
Didn't see her.
Is
I
that-
didn't see her.
That's not her.
Okay.
Based on the recommendations, I make a motion that we approve it.
Second, yeah.
Motion
Mary.
made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, because, we quickly moving through some of these items. However, it's a good thing reminded that we do spend a lot of time. I know I spent 3.5 hours preparing for this meeting, and I'm sure likewise my colleagues do the same. And we also base our decisions on recommendations from our department heads, who are professional in the various areas. So we consider that as well.
Tony, thank you for saying that. We do move through these. It feels like we do it quickly, but it's our job, as Tony pointed out, to make sure that we review the documentation prior to the meeting. And also, as Tony pointed out, we put a lot of stock to department head and administrator recommendations. The council ultimately makes the decision, but a lot of weight is given there. So, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D6. This is David Farabend, the Franklin LLC, 195 Franklin Street. This is a request for a dancing and entertainment license.
Who's the applicant here? No? Okay. Council?
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve with a 6-month review, but I know there was a stipulation to, kind of end the entertainment by 9 p.m. I'd be willing to go to what they originally offered. I think it was, they wanted to go to 11. I think, new business in town, we should give them the trust and do the 6-month review or a 3-month review and kind of let them thrive and get on their feet. If it's, just going to be a good small guitars and things like that. I don't think it's going to be any bands or anything like that, but, I just want to hear what my colleagues think, but
I
wanted to
agree
give them
with
the
you, Tony.
trust,
I agree. I think a 6-month review is appropriate. I think 11 o'clock as requested is appropriate. We can take a look at it at that point. If there's an issue, obviously, if there's an issue beforehand, it does not require waiting 6 months. So we can address those things right away if there's an issue there.
So did I hear correctly? It's 11 o'clock that we supporting?
Yes,
Okay.
With a 6-month review.
with a 6-month review, Tony.
Was that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second that with
Thank you, Tony.
additional discussion.
Go ahead.
Obviously, because of the neighborhood, it's a very tight neighborhood there. I have some concerns, but then again, because it's flanked by 2 streets, and houses are right in the back of the establishment. But since we have a 6-month review, we can come back, but it concerns me that we've extended to the 11 o'clock.
Yeah, I have to agree. I'm a little concerned about it. I mean, I don't think the particular type of business is going to be a loud,
Agreed.
and that's why in one hand, I wish that they were here to explain what they wanted to do, but given the nature of their other business in Tiverton, I don't like believe it's going to be that, but it is a very, very densely populated neighborhood, and I think you have to be really, really careful about it. So I would just want to make sure that that is conveyed to the petitioner. If this is approved.
And if my colleagues are concerned, I think, we could give them the benefit of the doubt and do a 3-month review and just shorten the time span. If you are feeling uneasy about it, we could have an earlier check-in rather than later, but if we're fine with the 6-month,
I
my
don't,
original motion stands.
I don't think doing a little bit extra in this instance, especially when we don't have the option of talking with the applicant right now, I don't think 3 months is inappropriate, and make sure that there are no issues. You both expressed concern.
Mhm.
It allows for both things to happen. I think it's a nice middle point. Tim, are you okay with amending that to
Yeah,
3?
I'll amend my motion to approve the dancing and entertainment license to 11 o'clock, but we're gonna shorten from 6 months to 3 months, so we're gonna have a 3-month review.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is D7. This is Peter Carvelli, from Folia 31 State Street. This is a request for dancing and entertainment license, and the applicant is here.
If you could state your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Peter Carvelli. I live at 315 North Lane in Bristol.
Thank you. Tell this council what you're proposing, please.
Sure. I'm the chef and owner of Folia Restaurant on State Street. The application was prompted by a request by local legend Pat McGee to do an event at our restaurant in October. This is an all acoustic event, no amplification whatsoever, but I thought it would be a good time. I've been meaning to apply for the entertainment license anyway, to give us an opportunity to have some musicians, local musicians, and some entertainment in our little restaurant on State Street.
And the applicant, the application you stated Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 to 9, Sunday, 4 to 8. Is that correct?
Those are our regular hours, and I think I added in the application occasional Tuesdays and Wednesdays, which are our closed nights to the public, but we do offer the space for private events.
You did do that. I'm sorry, I missed that.
But
Council?
I just want to make one point that I haven't made in a while.
Sorry.
No, this entertainment license is the same for no matter what. And that is one thing that makes me a little crazy over the years. So you want to have just an acoustical, no amplification guitar or a harpist. It's the same license if you're going to have some big loud band and, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. So there's no graduated license like we have in liquor licenses or anything like that. So it's kind of like an all or nothing. So we have to trust the businesses in the nature of your business. For example, you don't have a lot of space, number one. And number two, the type of restaurant and all the glowing accolades that you get, you have to trust that you're not going to go crazy down there. Even though, because another densely populated area, a lot of businesses in that area, but there are also people that live there. So I just wanted to point that out for the public in terms of the licenses, because I'm of a personal opinion that there shouldn't be a license for just like a little, harpist or a little guitar player. But you have to get the same license. So I just want people to understand that.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
Good point.
So,
Great.
good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I used to make it all the time, but then, we haven't had the opportunity to have to. talk
Well, I'm
that
glad you
much.
brought it up.
Same.
Yeah,
ca-
that's always
same cast
good.
of characters up here, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to remind us.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, based on the positive recommendations, make a motion to approve with a 6-month review.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony, with a 6-month review. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is E1. This is Andrew Breslin, The Nest, 29 State Street. This is a sidewalk and alcohol use license. This is the 3-month review. This is continued from May 29th.
Are they here?
Is the business owner here? Or representation of the business owner? No. Okay. Chief, I know that we have it, but there has been no concerns. Is that correct since this?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Outstanding. It's good to hear. 'Cause- Okay. So this was that review. So, um,
Yes, sir.
I know that we have it, but there has been no concerns. Is that correct since this? Outstanding. It's good to hear. Okay. So this was that review. So, I know that we have it, but there has been no concerns. Is that correct since this? Okay. So this was that review. So, Mr. Solicitor, help me or help us with that motion. At this point, it was a, go ahead.
So the motion would be to extend the license to, is it November thirtieth?
Correct.
Till November 30th, 2024,
Which is when we renew all of them?
when you renew all of
Hang
them.
on, I'm
Okay.
sorry, yes.
November 30th.
Counsel?
I make a motion, we approve it with some reservation there. Unfortunately, the owner is not here. I would think that he would take some onuses to be present, to get this extension.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. So we had a motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron, as stated by the solicitor. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F1. This is Susan Burke, 15 Lugent Lane. This is a request for no park here to corner on either side of Lugent Lane.
Is the applicant here? Okay. You are, okay, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Raphael Soares. I live on 4 Lugent Lane. I'm just here representing Sue. She was unable to attend today.
Gotcha. Thank you. So what's in front of this council, and we actually spoke about it earlier, is the request for no parking. We did get recommendations from all of our department heads to not approve it or deny it. So, but I wanted to give you the opportunity, if you'd like to take it, to share a little bit more here.
Yeah, no problem. So the major concern here would be the safety concern involved with the streets, fairly narrow. We've had a fire in the past. Actually, Sue's house was the house that caught on fire, and there were vehicles. There's actually a house on Sherry Ave that's rented to college students. There's at least like 8 to 10 of them. It's a 2-row parking spot in that driveway, and there's like 8 vehicles, and sometimes they overflow into Lugent Lane, and they park right on that corner. It prevents 2 vehicles from turning around that corner at the same time. And we've had emergency vehicles in the past having issues going up the street. And potentially, I'm thinking about the future. If there's some type of emergency and someone needs help up there, they're going to struggle going up that street. We live right at the end of the street. So we've also seen pedestrians almost getting hit by vehicles trying to exit into the street. We've almost seen collisions. There's a blind spot there with the light pole there and some bushes there. So we're just asking to put some like signs saying no parking here to corner, at least at the beginning of the street. They can park on one side going further up the street and so on in that event.
So the local law says, and not even locals, that there is no parking 15 feet to the corner. A couple of things that personally that I took from this, and I think my colleagues did too, is that Chief, could we possibly maybe increase the focus in that area to address this? And also, I would say to you and all of the residents that live there, don't hesitate to call the police department. They're accommodating. Chief's right here, and I know he agrees with this, is that if you're seeing those issues, just like anything else, is calling to have police come down to address that, because they shouldn't be parking 15 feet to the corner. I know it happens here and there, but if this is a chronic issue, then it needs to be addressed on it. So I personally would support additional focus over there if it's possible, Chief. Is that something we could do?
Yes, in denying the petition, I met with the staff, and as you know, annually, we do what is called a goodwill tour with Roger Williams University staff and the police department. And we go to those traditional houses that have parking concerns, neighbor concerns, and I'm going to add this house for this list. So the new Roger Williams students, we will speak with them and ask them to respect that 15-foot no parking to the corner, and to be respectful and try to saddle up all of the cars on one side of the road rather than both sides of the roadway.
Excellent.
I have a question. Is there any signage at all that indicates the 15 feet at this point?
Typically, we don't sign
Right.
because we
Right,
try
right.
to limit the signage
Mhm.
there, but it is not there. Nor should it be as our normal ordinance, but it is 15 feet from the corner. Is the local ordinance and probably the state ordinance too.
I mean, I don't know if we never put those signs up because of that ordinance, but I mean, if we were able to put one up, because this is obviously like a very transient area. So there's like the kids who live there, and then there's their friends who are constantly in and out. So when instead of 4 people maybe living unrelated people, there's probably more likely 6 to 8 of them there all the time. And so then they all have cars and they all have to park somewhere. Like, I totally understand the situation because I live in downtown and it's the same issue pretty much. But for other purposes. And so I do agree that it's somewhat unfair to the residents. But, you know, it's public parking. There's not a whole lot we can do, but I think there's signage there because people are in and out. And then I think strict enforcement for a while, so people get the message. In checking on it, like I think in the petition, it mentioned that people are parking like in all different directions.
Correct.
You know, and I think that is, you know, they're just kind of doing what they want, and I think that we have to like sort of clamp down on them so they get that message. I mean, all the streets, you just want to make sure, and I don't think you don't realize it until you really need rescue or fire department, like just how tight and how tough it can be sometimes, and every second counts. So I would appreciate like the stepping up the enforcement there and also adding that house. But even beyond that, because the fact that this petition is here now, I'm guessing this isn't just like when kids are in college, when school starts, because they must have been living here all summer, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I just think we just need to watch that area and like, as the chairman said, you just need to call the police because that also builds a record of this whole situation, you know,
Okay.
too, like, so that we say, well, we never heard of a problem here, you know?
Okay.
So the takeaway here is there's going to be increased focus over there. There is no 15 feet parking 15 feet to the corner. If these additional steps that are taken, including what the chief point, there's been a lot of success with that. He called it a goodwill tour. That has a tongue-in-cheek effect in my head. I'm thinking it's a don't go down the wrong path tour. So, and it has been successful in other parts of the town. If we do all of these steps and they're not successful, and obviously there's always going to be a little bit here and there, but if it's not the chronic issue that it is right now, and it's great, wonderful. If it isn't fixed, then we can talk about it again. And if it means that we don't normally do this, but if it means no parking sign 15 feet, if it's a parking box, if those things are appropriate, once we've gone through these steps, I'm sure my colleagues and I would consider that. So, okay.
Yeah,
So-
well said, Chairman. Yeah, I'll make, based on those comments,
you.
I'll make a motion to deny based on the recommendations.
Second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to deny based on the recommendations. Any other discussion?
Well, can we just phrase that a little differently, like
Certainly.
deny, but based on the recommendations, but based on the alternative plan? You know, it's almost like we have a course of action to see if it's gonna work. Not just denying, but, you know, like.
Tim, are you
see-
comfortable with
Right.
those words going? with
Oh,
it?
absolutely, because
there
I
a
think
second?
we've now taken steps that we're going to be monitoring these homes, and obviously they're
and
gonna be
enforcing
calling
the
in
Parking situation.
the
and,
parking
you know, they can't just be
situation.
Facing one direction and everybody else is on, you know, on the wrong side of the street and all that.
Seems reasonable.
So make a motion to deny with our, which includes our proposed plan. Is it, okay?
And there was a second from Tony.
Second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F2. This is James Paul, 28 First School Street. And this is a request for an ordinance amendment to designate First School Street as residential, no overnight parking.
Is James here? We wouldn't let you get away without talking to us. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, James Pauly, 28 First School Street, Bristol.
And tell this council your petition, why you're in front of us.
I am the applicant, but I did file also on behalf of almost all the residents on the street. We are having an increased parking problem, mostly due to Prudence Island residents doing the closure of the Robin Rugg facility and the parking lot. They've all decided to start parking along both sides of the road. We're having issues finding spots. We have several multifamily places, buildings on that street who don't have driveways, so they've encountered some issues. Those of us who do have a driveway, we have family or so forth to multiple cars that they just can't find spots. So it's becoming a increasing problem. Trash is another thing. A lot of the people have left trash. I'm constantly picking that up as well. We pretty much have
Yeah.
large, bunch of people here from the.
If you're here on this
street.
agenda item, raise your hand. Thank you. That helps
Oh.
us perspective-wise. Thank you.
So.
So what you're asking us to do is make this resident-only parking for
Correct.
overnight parking, excuse me, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the recommendations are all to follow that request.
Yes.
So it seems reasonable to me, colleagues.
I just wanted to, I agree with this, and what's happening, I think, is that we've addressed this in different increments over the last few years. You know, if we limited on High Street, now they went up to Wood. We limited on Wood, now they're up to First School Street. And as a matter of fact, this is not part of your petition, but just the other, over the weekend at the Harbor Fest, one of the residents on High Street nearer to Union had raised the same concern to me. And I said, you know, I think there's an issue coming up on this agenda. So I would ask I would move that we approve this petition, but also ask Diane or whomever, the police department, whoever it is, to look at what else is on there and make sure. I was under the impression that we had gone all the way down to the lobster pot pretty much, but this.
I don't think we
didn't go far enough.
didn't go
right?
east, right?
So, yeah, so I think we need to definitely go because they're having the same thing, people parking on for weeks on end on that section of High Street. And so if we could take a look and come back with how this can be extended, because it is an issue for lots of reasons. And you know, like when you're living downtown and there's lots of multifamily homes, lots of people who have cars. I mean, I've had neighbors that have like 6 vehicles or 8 vehicles because there's a couple of different apartments, there's an adult child, there's a husband, there's a wife, you know, and so, you know, they'd have space for people there. So if Diane, you could do that for maybe the next meeting, we could look at that too. So if we're gonna change this ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you make the motion?
Yes, I
So,
could make a
I'll
motion.
second that.
Yeah.
So there was a
My
motion
motion
made.
was to approve this, but then also to ask Diane to like look at this ordinance and see where we need to expand it to.
So you're right. We did expand this before and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
And Mary,
far
I think you bring up a very good point because I think once we put in the no parking signs, it just sort of moves the parking. We're not really solving the problem. It just ends up being another street problem.
At some
And
point,
we're
it's
gonna
be
just
too
keep
far to
doing
walk.
this.
Eventually, it's gonna be too far to walk, but I mean, I see them, you see them because of where we
Yeah.
live.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
with the wagon coming back up the street all the
Yeah.
time, so.
Yeah. No,
If I could, some of my neighbors would like to speak.
you just come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, Albert Ferry, 14 First School Street. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I voted for all of you.
thank
Anything you say after that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're good.
And after this verdict, we will still be voting for you.
I'm just kidding.
But this brought our neighborhood together. We have people signing up from Mount Hope, from State Street. A resident sticker allows anyone to, because we have a community there and there are spots and we want the people who live here to be able to park there. So if they have a sticker, you don't have to live on First School Street to get the sticker, right? Is that correct? To be able to get the sticker to park there? It's just a
not
resident
sure they
They,
sticker?
they have to live within the residential district zone.
Did you hear what the clerk said? So you have to be inside a zone to be
A
able to get one
zone,
of the
okay,
stickers.
because
Yes.
there's people here who live on Mount Hope, on State Street,
Yeah.
who have to park there. And we don't want to leave, they're part of our community, we don't want to leave them out. So if the zone can include those folks, I live next door to a college house, which is really a nightmare most of the time, let me tell you. But you guys do a very good job. You know, there's 6 people living in there, but they're still part of our community.
Right.
So I just wanted to make sure that the other folks like Joe and nice person on Mount Hope, we're still going to be able to park there because there is some room to park there. The Prudence Island, or the Portsmouth people, I should say, it's a nightmare. It really is. They leave their cars in front of our house for not just days, for weeks sometimes. I do have a good solution though. Move the ferry to Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Albert.
So
I think can I? I'm sorry.
actually, first, Mr. Administrator, because it looked like you were going to weigh in on
Yeah, I just asked to consider a motion to, or amended motion to refer it to administration so that I can work with the police department.
just
and
gonna say that.
Community development.
Thank you.
And come back with an overlay, a revised overlay of the residential zone.
Yeah,
That would be great because we don't want to piecemeal this, or
right.
the least amount of piecemeal is the preference. Is that what you were going to say, Mary?
No, what I was, no, what I was gonna say is that I do think that, in that zone, like people who live just around the corner, because like State Street might only have one side of parking, for example, certain sections. I think it's the same thing, like, the best example I can think of is like Noyes Avenue. Small, a lot of people park on Union Street because of the number of cars and multifamilies. I don't personally think that's an issue for people that are in that area, because this is all like, it's gonna have to go up to like, I don't know to how far when Steve takes a look at it, like how far, what is a reasonable amount? Is it Prospect Street? I don't really know. Because we've seen people just move. And then it was a little quieter. And I think now because the parking is no longer there, then that is sort of picked up as an issue again this year. So I think we need to take a look at it, and, we're always going to be jumping, and people like, well, it's cheaper for me to walk like 2 miles than to pay somewhere, So we'll see how that goes. But I think that's a good idea, Steve, to take a look, and I'll let you know who the person who was on High Street that talked to me too.
Because whatever solution we come up with, it's going to end up with the police department to enforce it. And we want to make sure we have a good plan that can be enforced, because
Yeah.
otherwise we're not going to really be able to solve the issue.
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Chris Souza, 18 First School Street.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you for hearing our proposal tonight, and for sounding in favor. I do definitely agree with Mary Perella in the fact that, we need to look at it more holistically. Like, where do you end? It can't just be First School Street. Should it be Second School Street, Mount Hope, State Street up to Prospect? I will say that I do want to point out that I think one of the reasons that we are seeing this increased problem this year is that the Prudence Island Ferry's website is now directing people to park east of Wood Street.
Oh, my gosh.
So right on their website, that tells them to go east of Wood Street to park. So that doesn't just mean us, but we're straight up from the ferry.
Right.
So it's probably impacting us, but I'm sure that this is impacting people in, on other streets east of Wood Street. So
Thank you for sharing. that.
Yeah.
thank you.
Well,
So
I
we need to
definitely would-
include A&R
We
in
need
the
to talk to
discussions,
them
right?
about that. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
we
They should not
need
have
to-
that on the website at all,
No.
So what we need is an amended motion. What was
Right.
originally put out there was
Yeah.
that
Wow.
we would move forward with this, but it would seem that referring it to the administrator and Director
Yes.
of Community Development to come back to this council with a proposed overlay. Thank you.
Yes, I would also do that, and to also reach out, for the administrator to reach out to A&R
Yep.
and to discuss this issue of the website, because this is tremendously problematic, wherever you are in the downtown area.
Yeah.
So that
thank
motion
you.
was made by
Thank you
Mary.
for telling us that.
Who was the second? Tony?
I second
Tony? Okay. Other discussion?
Yes, just very briefly, it's interesting you're saying that they're parking up on Mount Hope Avenue, because I walk 5 days a week and that's my path. Coming up, as the ferry pulls in, I see those folks get off, and interesting enough, I made some observations for another time, another place. And I used to see them walk along the common and cross over to Mount Hope, and I'm going, that's interesting, but now that explains that they actually are parking there. They don't live there. They're not going to go to work somewhere in the area. They actually just making use of the space, to go and park. That's interesting,
Sir, if I may, we see this all the time.
If you could come up to the mic, thank you.
Sorry. My first town meeting.
All
A
good.
couple of cars will come up and park, then another car will come up, pick everybody up and drive them down. It's a parking lot. And if you take a look at the corner of Mount Hope and First School Street, those corners there with Seagull Street over here, it is such a difficult spot to maneuver. It's such a difficult spot to maneuver you mentioning that 15 feet, that might really help make things a little bit safer over there. If you take a look at those corners over there, it's a very difficult spot to navigate. And I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin.
So I would suspect that this would be on our next or the following. This may be 2 meetings out. I'd like to make sure that there's enough time given to the administrator and community development director time to look at this. And that doesn't mean there wouldn't be more dialogue about it, but if we can have the best foot forward on this one.
So we'd move forward the no parking for school, but we would have the plan on the October 9th meeting? Is that
No,
what
I
you're
think
talking
we
about?
can put all of it together.
All of it
to be quite
together?
honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the
Okay.
best way to handle it. I heard some concerns from the neighbors saying that it needs to be larger than that and what's happening right now. So I think holistic is, to use your word, is the best way to go. If you'd like to speak, you can, and if you could state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jose Diogo. I live on 212 State Street.
Welcome.
And good evening. And I normally park my car on the First School Street because there's not enough parking on State Street. And 4th of July weekend, I saw someone parking the Massachusetts car in front of my house. And I called the cops about a month later. And the cop said, we cannot do nothing about this car. I said, this car's from Massachusetts. We don't even know if this guy is dead in the house. Where does he live? We don't know. He's from Massachusetts. He said that we cannot do anything. We cannot tow the car because the car would register from Quincy, Massachusetts, license plates, and the car was all updated. How can I get car be there, take an hour's parking space first to park there?
So I'm certainly I'm not an expert in regards to that, and certainly the chief would know better than I.
Yeah.
It is public parking, so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
I wish it did, but it
I
doesn't,
know, I
right?
understand
So
it. That's why we're here. We want to get, and then I know one of our neighbors was parked. That means she lives on State Street. She couldn't park her car on State Street. She couldn't park her car on First School Street. Guess what? She parked on the corner of First School Street on top of the crossroad. She got tagged. Why? Why she got tagged? Because there wasn't no parking space for her to park her vehicle. That's why we want more. That's why we want the stickers, the resident stickers.
So this council agrees with you.
Yeah.
This agrees with all the comments that are here. So what we're hoping to have happen is that the Director of Community Development, Diane Williamson, and the administrator, working with other staff, to come back to the council, to have a greater dialogue about what that map is going to look like, that overlay, we may be, I guess this is like whack-a-mole sometimes it feels like. We may be there, but hopefully this will be far enough back and still reasonable. So there will be more dialogue about it, but as I said, this council agrees.
Okay,
So,
thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you.
And if I may, so with this, we will avoid precisely what you're talking about, having a Massachusetts car parked there for endless time,
Yes.
without, so,
Yeah. And maybe that person that lived on State Street can have more parking space. She won't get tagged, I don't know how much, from parking on top of the crossroad, because I saw the cop tagging her, The cop even got out of the car and knocked at her door. She never got out. She probably works nights, and she still got tagged.
although he tried to make an attempt to speak with the driver or the owner of the vehicle, though.
Yeah, she never got out of the house. She was sleeping or whatever.
Yeah.
But she lived on State Street, and the officer that was there tagged her because, Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank
So
you.
We have a motion and a second as stated to have this, an update and overlay at the next or the one after that, the next council meeting or the one following that. So 3 to 6 weeks out. I'm sorry. Did you want to speak?
Yes, Court from Second School Street.
Thank you. Welcome.
I just have a suggestion that perhaps the field where the carnival workers are allowed to park, if that could be open for Prudence Ferry people.
We could certainly consider it.
It's just an option.
Yeah.
It might relieve the issue.
the gentleman suggested that possibly where we allow DPW parking, right next to DPW.
Oh, okay.
And for the 4th of July, we allow RV parking.
Gotcha.
There. So that make that available to Prudence Island residents. So you may have started a whole war here, sir.
Yeah. It's an option looking for.
Oh, is he,
They're not for
is
free.
Chris shaking his head no? Okay. Thank you,
know.
Chris. No, I'm kidding. We'll see. I'm having fun, but it certainly we'll consider it and we'll look for Chris's input on. Chris Perella is our DPW director, so we'll look for his input on it. So thank you. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I am no means representing Unity Park, but from what I understand, there are still paid spots available at Unity Park for, and they do rent to Prudence Island residents. So this overlay would have to be clearly keep into consideration. There are paid spots there, but it's easier not to pay and much closer with some of the streets that aren't included in the current residential parking zone. So we'll take collectively, we'll all get together and we'll come back with a revised residential plan.
And I got to tell you, I look at the agenda all the time and I think I know where the most discussion is going to be. Didn't call this one at all. So not at all. So,
Same.
yeah. Sure.
Sorry, I don't mean to take up so much of the council's time, but just let me get this straight. We're not voting a yes today. Does that
So-
mean we need to come back at the next meeting?
That's a great question for clarity. So in essence, it's a yes. So
It's a
what we're
yes.
saying
Okay.
is how much are we going to
Okay.
include? So it will include the street that you just asked us to do, at least. There will
Okay.
be more than
Okay,
that.
so it's a yes.
Yes.
I like the way that you.
It's a yes.
It's a nice way to
But
kind
it's
of.
gonna take a little longer than like.
Albert,
tomorrow.
we're about to
As long as
vote,
it's before
so
next summer, we're good.
Right, yeah, I know, summer's almost over, yeah.
Albert, we're about to vote, so you're about to get your yes, hopefully. So you'll find out shortly.
Any other discussion from the council?
I think the administrator.
Mr. Administrator.
No, if you don't mind that.
Certainly.
So to Albert's question, if you did pass the first school street right now, or the first reading, the problem would be those living on State Street and Mount Hope Avenue, they would be excluded from parking on First School Street. So you don't want to pass that right now. You want to, let's take a look at the surrounding area because you don't want to exclude your neighbors from parking
We
there.
didn't think this was gonna get done from this seat.
Mhm.
It's really about Prudence Island.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you all.
So it's your yes, eh?
There's your yes.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F3. This is Rosa Ilana Escobar Torino, 153 Bradford Street. This is a request for accessible parking space in the vicinity of the residence. It's a second reading.
Based on the recommendations, make a motion to adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony as stated. Any discussion?
Just to clarify again, just because it is a handicap spot, doesn't mean it's dedicated to that individual. It could be to anyone visiting the neighborhood as well. So people are going to be a little careful. This is not a guaranteed, oops, I get a spot. So always a good reminder.
Good point. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F4. This is Tony Mortini, 46 Highland Road. And this is a request for adoption of a SOAM's land acknowledgement resolution and for establishing of usage guidelines. And then I just do also want to note there is a received at meeting letter of support from Andrea Rounds that the council will find on their dais.
Thank you. Thank you. So what's in front of this council? Actually, Tony, you're here. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Thank you.
We
My
do
name is
have it.
Tony.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Please continue.
My name is Tony Mortini. I live at 46 Highland Road.
Thank you.
And I'm here to put in front of you, and hopefully you will adopt a petition to adopt a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgement simply says that we acknowledge that we're living in a place that has been occupied for thousands of years by the indigenous people, in this case, the Poconokeets. There's a number of the tribe here, as a matter of fact, tonight, Tracy, including the sachem, Tracy Brown. As a matter of fact, you asked for a show of hands before. If I could ask for a show of hands of people who are here for this. I just wanted to make a point. Excuse me. Well, this started out as sort of mine, has my name on it. It's become ours. A lot of people have expressed support. And I'll tell you why I started thinking about it. So I'm a tour guide at the State House and have been for 4.5 years. We start our tours by looking up in the dome and looking at a picture of Roger Williams talking to the Narragansett sachems about about establishing a settlement here. And that's sort of, if you know the story, that's where most of us school children learned about it. In fact, it started before then. So when Roger came down from Boston, from the Bay, he was thrown out, threatened with expulsion back to England. He came down, he had pneumonia, it was the winter, and he was taken in by Usamequin, the Massasoit of the Pokanoket, the great chief of the Pokanoket, and nursed back to health. Had he not been nursed back to health out of pneumonia in that winter, he never would have had the opportunity to meet with the Narragansetts and establish Rhode Island. So it's fair to say that if not for the Pokanokets, if not for Usamequin, we might be Massachusetts now. Not necessarily a bad thing, but we wouldn't probably be Rhode Island. But even before that, Usamequin is the chief who met with the Pilgrims when the Pilgrims first stepped ashore in Plymouth. We all learned about the Pilgrims being greeted by local people, taught them how to plant corn, and helped them survive that first winter. First winters, really. That, in fact, was also Usamequin, the same gentleman. He also signed a peace treaty with the Pilgrims that assured mutual self-defense. So the Pokanokets' history here before that was thousands of years. Our history is closely intertwined with the Pokanokets' history. And not many people necessarily know that or learned that, and we haven't really, I don't think, acknowledged that in the degree we can. So what this land acknowledgement does is say that we acknowledge that we live in, I'll read it very quickly. Welcome to Sohams, which is where we live, is what the Pokanoket call this area. Sort of think of it as the East Bay and sort of the immediately adjacent towns into Massachusetts. Welcome to Sohams, the home of the Pokanoket tribe for over 10,000 years prior to settler colonization. We acknowledge that our community was a part of the larger ancestral home of the Pokanoket tribe, and we recognize the unique and enduring relationship that exists between the indigenous people and their traditional territory. As the place of Metacom's seat at the base of Patumtuck, which is their name for Mount Hope, it means lookout, by the way. It was their place for obvious reasons. As the place of Metacom's seat at the base of Patumtuck, let this acknowledgement serve as a reminder of our ongoing responsibility to recognize, honor, reconcile, and partner with the Pokanoket tribal people for the benefit of the land and water of Sohams, our land and water. It's that simple. There is no more to it than that, but I think it's profound. I mean, if you look at who is in support of this, first of all, it's important to know Warren did one 4 or 5 years ago. They were sort of the first ones in East Bay. Barrington has since done one. East Providence has done one. Coggeshall Farm has one. Mount Hope Farm has one. And there are a number of communities on the West Bay that have them. If you look at the folks that wrote letters in support, so say Bristol Harbor, they're here. Middle Passage Marker Project. The school district, Diane Santa is working to incorporate Pokanoket and Indigenous people's history into the social studies curriculum to actually align with new social studies regulations from RIDE. So, and the Indigenous people's part in that is going to be critical. So this land acknowledgement, she was very happy to see it because it fits perfectly with what she's doing. The Bristol Historical and Preservation Society, the Sohams Heritage Area, which is the new one you just saw, and then of course the Pokanoket tribe, Tracy's letter. They all have common themes. If you sort of read through them, I just read them again before we came out. They all talk about stewardship, taking care of the land and water, taking care of this land that we have occupied together now for 400 years, and they for thousands of years before that. And it also talks about our shared history, which we have. We share our history with the tribe, with the Indigenous people. So this land acknowledgement says what I just read. You have it in your document. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. It's 3 sentences. I will tell you, East Providence's is long. Warren's is longer than this. This sort of pares it down to its essential bits. It's had, again, as I said, enormous support from the community. You folks know I've been up here in front of you for a number of different reasons over the years. This actually surprised me with the amount of support that I've seen. People are pretty, the words that I hear are, it's about time. So let's hope with your respectfully ask that you adopt the language. It's a two-part petition, right? The first part is to adopt this language as our land acknowledgement, as the town's land acknowledgement. The second part is to discover, deliver, develop, is the right word, usage guidelines, promulgate some usage guidelines. In Warren, they have a sign that it's included in your packet. It's about 3 feet square. There's a sign at Coggeshall Farm. Towns choose to start their meetings with it. As an example, I would think that we would want to at least promulgate it to our boards and commissions to let them know that we've done this, so they have it. The ideal place to be with this is what Susan and I saw in the Canadian Rockies last year. The people there of Canada, they call their Indigenous people First Nations, have internalized it. So when you go on like a tour of which we did, some tours of some small lakes, or you're out in the woods or something, the guides start as they're taking you out by talking about where you are. And they talk about it in these terms. And it really struck us. So we live in a special place. We're really proud of our history, rightfully so. What this does is talk about the entirety of our history, right? It sort of shows where we are as a people, and where our visitors are when they come to visit us. So if I could, Tracy, would you like to say, could I bring Tracy up to say
Yes,
a
of course.
couple of words?
If you could state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Pokanoket Tracy Dancing Star. I am Sachem of the Pokanoket tribe. I live in Barrington, Rhode Island.
Welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for affording me time to speak. I think, Tony, you did a wonderful job giving a lot of information. I'll make my comment very brief. I would just like to say that knowing the history of the land of which you inhabit is a very important step toward taking pride and finding value in the land. The story of the Pokanoket tribe and its role in history has shaped Bristol into what it is today. The proposal of this land and waterways acknowledgement means recognizing and honoring lands and places that are historically and culturally significant starting from the very beginning. We are all part of this community, and what better way is there to come together to care for it than to start with this very acknowledgement? I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just had a quick question.
Sure.
Tony.
Yeah, I assume it's for me.
Definitely in support. Just wanted to ask about the adopted language and the expectation. Would there be an expectation to read it at every town meeting, every board and commission, or is it more we would adopt the language and it would be available to us when we needed to
It's
read
really
it?
the latter, Tim. Again,
Okay.
the petition is in two discrete pieces. The first is to adopt the language, those 3 sentences. And the second piece is to determine how you'd like to use it, right? So, I mean, I can tell you, as the chair of the Conservation Commission, land and water is important to us. So I would imagine we would start our meeting, probably not with a recitation, word for word, line for line, but more, as I say, sort of just let's talk about where we are and why we're doing this, right? We're doing this for our current residents and the current people of Bristol, but also in recognition of the point that we've been here a long time, and this place has been here a long time, and there are people who have occupied it before us. Again, I know Barrington, I'm pretty sure Warren actually starts their town council meetings with it. I don't know if this is the extreme example or not, but we're big hockey fans. So Stanley Cup playoffs this year, before the Edmonton Oilers games in their stadium with a roaring crowd, a chief of the Cree Nation came on the Jumbotron and welcomed everybody to Cree territory. And then they sang the Canadian national anthem and they played hockey. So
Yeah.
it can be used in whatever way we see fit. That's sort of the second part. I didn't want to, if you will, dictate that part of it. I just wanted to ask that we create that, we develop and we promulgate the land acknowledgement in the words.
Definitely, definitely. Tony, thanks for all the work that you've done on this. I know that you've really been engaging with the tribes and some of the other organizations in town about this. We have something similar at University of Rhode Island with our new president who came in. They developed a land acknowledgement statement. And so when we have our exercises for commencement, there's usually somebody from the local tribe who will come and read the land acknowledgement at this one singular event that we have at the university. And then the university has adopted this land acknowledgement, but they give the discretion to anybody who might be a professor or an employee or anybody for that matter to, if they want to add it to their email signature, they can add it to their email signature. I'm the director of an MPA program. We have monthly meetings. If I wanted to, I could, give the land acknowledgement. Now, one of the things that I think would be kind of powerful or nice about this as well is would be if there was an organization that came to town, and I've seen this actually happen twice. And we would have organizations that come to downtown that might want to have a celebration. So the USS, the Golden Peace, is that what it was called? The Golden Deed. There was the arrival of a ship that came into town, and they wanted to do a land acknowledgement, but we didn't have a one that was adopted by the town. So they may have, found their own land acknowledgement, but it wasn't specific to the town of Bristol. It wasn't specific to the tribes that were here on this land. I also remember at the Juneteenth celebration, I see some folks here from the Juneteenth celebration where there was also a land acknowledgement read that was not a town adopted land acknowledgement that didn't really kind of get into the local nature of what has happened in history over here. And it wasn't one I didn't think that did as much to respect some of the traditions and the cultures and everything like that. So it's my, do you envision maybe the statement being something that could be seized by organizations maybe who are looking to have events here in town?
Certainly if it's in place, I'm sorry, Tracy, if it's available,
Yes.
certainly.
Of course, any organization would be able to use that land acknowledgement statement. I just wanted to come and say that it was the golden rule.
Golden Rule.
And I
that's
gave the
right.
land acknowledgement statement.
Golden Deed, Golden Peace. Yes, yes.
We welcomed
And so
them.
the land acknowledgement that you gave was probably perfect then.
I gave the Poconoket land acknowledgement statement. We went there when they arrived at Fox Point and we
Yes.
greeted them. We did a ceremony for them and we gave a land acknowledgement statement then. And then we came here for the send off and we gave the prayer and another land acknowledgement.
So I guess
statement.
my question, Tracy, then is, do you think it would be valuable for us to have a town adopted statement
Yes.
that you could read for like an event if
Yes, I
if
do.
you were to arrive and participate? And-
Yes.
Okay.
And in my absence, someone could read it
Yes. Yeah.
because it would already be in place.
And I think the other important point to be made was that there was engagement with the tribe here
Mhm.
in the development of this statement, which I
Yes,
think is
there was.
absolutely critical.
Yes, Tony
when you're-
reached out
yeah.
to me and we did work on it
Okay,
together.
thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Any
I-
other questions?
I don't know if I would call it a question. I do think it's important to have this and to acknowledge this history. I mean, we have, like the King Philip's Chair on the Mount Hope Bay. And that is like a very, very historic site and books have been, at least one book, I don't know, there may be many, been written about that and our role and certainly the Wayposset Trust and, the land acknowledgements that we've had. So I think we have been, involved with that. I'm not sure as many people maybe go down, like, when Brown had the, Heaven Rapper Museum down there, there was a lot more, I think, activity around this topic. Before it was moved, like with school children and, visitors going down to see all this, see the land, see the artifacts. I do think it would be, as I mentioned to you on the phone, like maybe a QR code, wherever we do something, wherever the right place would be, just to know the history of this area. And I mean, I'm happy that the schools are going to be focusing further on local and state history and US. It's really taken a back seat in civics in general. So I think that that's all good. So it's just a matter, I think, I don't have an issue as much with the acknowledgement, it's just what we're going to do with it. Like, I don't really see us reciting it at every meeting or anything like that. It's, but I do think there's the, the lands that are on the east side of town that, that we can be, using more. So I think there's a lot of potential. I just don't know what the answer is right now, but that's kind of how I feel about it.
Sure.
And
And it could be a living, evolving thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what we decide today could be, we'll have the acknowledgement we can do as we please going forward, obviously.
Tony?
Thanks.
Yes, I fully understand. When I was in high school, I was there one time. I had two teachers that I actually visit many times, Mary alluded to the Half-and Rapper Museum, the chief's chair. I remember Miss Borges and Mr. Jeff Ferrier, and there was another teacher I had. They were very involved. Actually, it was a class called the Humanities. It was very involved, and it was quite interesting class. And those teachers, they took great interest in the culture, in the history of the town of Bristol. There was no doubt about that. The only thing I would caution with this, first of all, as far as, passing on to boards and commissions, I don't think we should impose that on them. That definitely would not be something I would favor. Neither would I favor that we would open up a meeting, with the statement. The other fact is, the wording here, it may appear harmless, but we have another item going forward, F6, that at one point we thought it was harmless. In fact, I was the administrator then. I signed off on that, thinking we acquire a piece of land. But anyway, that's for another time. So here, I would be very cautious, the wording. When we use the word accepting responsibility, acknowledging, when we acknowledging things and accepting responsibility, how far is that going to take us? Maybe not now. It's harmless. Man, don't worry about it, but what is in the long term, the responsibility that will come back, to haunt us? So I would be very cautious in passing this as is and supporting many of these items.
Okay, so I like a lot of what has been said. I think some things are covered. I do agree with what's already been said, that I would not follow Barrington's lead and have anything said, not at this council in that regard, or at our boards or commissions. So that's
why the second part is to flip it to you to decide. This is
This-
Bristol, we're a separate place.
So some or all of you may know that the town is purchasing land from Brown University with the intention, like we do with all of it, is open space forever. It would seem appropriate to me, and it was actually something that we were going to do anyway, but we could, we'll say, improve the words with signage there, and signage that is similar. You pointed out Warren's sign, and I don't mean follow their words, but the general design of it. And I would picture it as almost the trailhead there. There is no trail there, not at least.
Not until the Conservation Commission gets there,
So-
starts cutting.
But we would look at that and possibly start there. So I would be amenable to signage there. But I do believe that if this council wants to move forward, the next step would be to refer to the solicitor, take a look at, as Tony pointed out, is there any future problematic words? Is there any advice I could be given? Certainly Barrington did that, Warren did that, and that's something that makes the most sense here. So we could have feedback from the solicitor at our next meeting. If this council decided that it wanted to move forward then we would move with some of that legal information. So if everybody's amenable to referring it to the solicitor and then taking a next step, generally speaking, whether the signage goes, how it goes, verbiage and all of that we can work on. Council's thoughts?
I think it
Yeah,
should be like
Chairman.
one, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, Mary,
I feel it should be like one step at a time. Like I agree with like we can get the language squared away and that should be relatively like, the next meeting or so. And we could adopt that. And then whatever we're going to do with it, I mean, we're still finalizing that property purchase. And so, I mean, we have a little bit of time to
Right.
figure out like
Good point.
how this is going to be used and what we're going to do with it. So I don't think we should wait for the whole thing to be resolved. I think we can do like,
Step
we
by
can
step.
adopt this and then we can figure out the next step.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to say, I think, and colleagues, I think that this land acknowledgement really recognizes the Okanogan history and their sacred grounds in Tumtuck, which is Mount Hope, which is here in town. And the approval tonight, I think, is super important because it sends a really strong message as that we recognize their history and we want a sustainable future for the Pokanoket tribe. And remember, the American dream is not just built on a few, it's built on many. So I think I'd like to make a motion to take the next steps forwards to either adopt this language, have the solicitor review it, and then we also explore maybe usage of the signage at our, maybe down the road. Or does anybody want to make a suggestion on that?
So Tim, your motion was to refer to the solicitor. I wasn't clear. I apologize. So to refer to the solicitor and then come back with us with if
To adopt this language, but refer to the
Or
solicitor,
language,
yeah,
Okay.
to
How about
refer
if we
to.
adopt the concept, that we move forward in the concept.
Move
but
so-
Working on the language.
Well said.
To make sure that it's. appropriate or
Exactly.
whatever, yeah.
That we agree to the
Yeah.
concept tonight. I think I agree with you, Mary. We can agree to that, and then we can just have the solicitor take a look at the language and explore the usage of signage. Yeah, I think down the road, I think we want to figure out what the best spot is,
Where-
how it's going to look, what it's going to be.
Is there a second?
I'll second
Second.
that.
Okay,
And-
thank you.
Yeah.
And just a question for
Discussion?
the solicitor. Did Barrington, did I hear Barrington and Warren both had their solicitors look at, I mean, is this a common? Okay, yeah,
Not boring, but
Yeah.
I did look at, the statement's a little different.
okay.
There, but yeah, I did review that language in Barrington, yes.
Is there, I mean, when I came into this, I would have never thought that there would be some legal consequences of
Well-
adopting a land acknowledgement statement. I mean, I did a little bit of research on it, but I what I read about it was that
So-
there's not really a whole lot of legal concern
So,
about that.
And obviously, with the statement in Barrington, that's the conclusion that I came to.
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna go back and review that in
Okay.
connection with this, and we'll come back to you at your meeting. I think your next meeting is September 18th.
18th, yeah.
And we
Yeah.
will certainly have an opinion for you.
Excellent.
All right,
Thank you.
So just thank you. Could I just be, so you'll be looking at the language as submitted for, okay,
Correct.
I just want,
That's it. Yeah.
got it.
Any other discussion from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Members of the council, the next item on the agenda is tab 5. We have Cameron Rand for Rhode Island Races and Events Incorporated. This is in partnership with the Bristol 4th of July Committee to hold a top marathon on Saturday, June 28, 2025, 6:30 a.m. to 10 p.m., beginning and ending at Independence Park and this year.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Uh,
We're used to seeing your mom here. Is it, right?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
Yes.
Outstanding.
passing down the heritage.
Okay.
And the work?
It was the full baton.
Excellent. Well, we've had no issues. We've addressed some concerns in the past and you've addressed those concerns. Council?
Based on the recommendations, I make a motion that we approve it.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Is there any discussion? Would you like a 30-second commercial? No, absolutely. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, chief
Mr.
says.
Chairman, could I make
Sir.
a recommendation that Lieutenant Paul Maderas is the contact for this event and they're to work with him on traffic control and setting up the detail offices?
That will go along with the motion. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F6. This is Stephen O'Neill, 70 Ferry Road, and this is a request for adoption of a resolution for maintenance of the middle passage port marker.
I would ask everyone to be quiet. I'm sorry to, thank you. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, could you repeat that? I apologize.
Absolutely. The next item on the agenda is F6. This is Stephen T. O'Neill, 70 Ferry Road, and this is a request for adoption of the resolution for maintenance of the middle passage port marker at Independence Park.
Motion to approve the resolution or to adopt the resolution.
I'll second that with the discussion, Mr. Chairman.
So we have a motion made by Tim to approve, seconded by Tony. Discussion.
I would ask to also refer this to the town solicitor for a careful legal review and render us an opinion before we move forward.
Yes.
You second.
So there was a motion and a second, and that's Tony's asking for next steps on referring to the solicitor. Discussion, other discussion?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Mr. O'Neill, you're standing here. Was there something that you wanted to add before we do that?
Well, no, just, I'm the board secretary of the Bristol Middle Passage Port Marker Project. I live here in town, on Ferry Road. And, it should be, we think it's fairly straightforward because what we're asking the council to approve is a resolution confirming the language that already appears in the
Right.
Independence Park Management Agreement.
Yeah.
But the Department of Transportation, in order to give us approval of our site and our design of our port marker, has asked for even though they're aware that that language appears in the agreement, they've asked for a specific acknowledgement by the town of their obligation to maintain our marker once it is erected.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the council?
I'll pass up. Thank you.
You sure?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you. So this was, obviously, we referred it to the solicitor. This will be at our next meeting with his findings. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is F7. This is Peter Accardi Jr., 16 Tobin Lane, and this is a request for license to maintain a triangular-shaped parcel at the intersection of Sullivan and Tobin Lanes. I also just want to mention that there is two received at record documents. One is a recommendation from the Department of Public Works, and there's also a copy of a proposed sign.
So what's in front of us is a request, if we want to move forward and call for a public hearing on September 18th.
Correct.
So move.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to call for public hearing on September 18th. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is G1. This is the Police Pension Fund Board of Trustees, and this is for one unexpired term. This is the police union representative, and we have a recommendation from the IBPO Local 304 President, Captain St. Pierre, for a recommendation for Sergeant Robert Millard.
I don't recall the last time this position was open and in front of us. Is our protocol been to follow the recommendation? Not that I have any issue with it.
Yeah, so if you remember at the last meeting, Keith Martin,
Yes.
he moved
Yes.
to, I believe, New York, and so he resigned as the police union member. The board calls for 5 members by the council. One of them is the treasurer. 3 of them are appointed by the council. 1 is the police union representative, but it's confirmed by the council, their recommendation.
So it's, in essence, we've followed in the past. And again, I have no concerns about this position or the person being recommended for it. Council?
Make a motion that we appoint Captain St. Pierre.
Sergeant Robert Millard.
Although he'd appreciate that, Robert Millard.
He's the one that makes the recommendation.
I'm
from the
sorry.
union.
Okay. No. Yes. Is that how long? Yeah, it is.
That's all you prep for.
So no, Sergeant Millard, I'm sorry.
Sergeant Millard, okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, so motion made by Tony, seconded by Aaron to follow the recommendation from Captain St. Pierre to appoint Sergeant Robert Millard to the Police Pension Board of Trustees. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is G2. This is the Bristol Historic District Commission. This is for one unexpired term set to expire July 2027. And there's also one unexpired auxiliary member, term set to expire July 2025. We have Sarah Butler with a letter of resignation, and we also have a letter of interest in being elevated from Michael O'Loughlin.
I make a motion that we accept Sarah Butler's letter of resignation with the thank you for her service and elevate Michael to a full member position.
I'll second the motion, and I did hear from Michael. He'd be happy to serve as a full-time member.
Part of that motion would also include advertising for that now open position, correct?
Correct.
Outstanding. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the appointment for the Town Council Liaison of the Bristol 250th Commission, and this is by the council chairman.
So I just get to,
Well, that's how
strangely
we've
enough,
always
it's
listed
not
it
a vote.
on.
It's, so I had discussions with Mary earlier, suggested by Tim. So Mary, if you will accept the position.
All right, Mary, get your party
Like
hat
the
on.
Academy Awards.
Yes.
Yeah.
The winner of the
Congratulations.
Bristol 250th Commission. So
Yeah.
is anybody you want to thank? No.
I want to thank my family, I want to thank everybody.
Eric, could we get some walk-off music? That would be wonderful. Outstanding, outstanding. So Mary, thank you for
Yeah.
taking on this position. Though the position, of course, is a point of contact, and the clerk had actually brought this to my attention, and that the group is already asking for the correct conduit to share information to the council. So thank you for taking it on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
And there's no motion or anything, which is,
No, so we generally put this on, the council liaisons are normally on the reorganization, and it is always adopted by the council to appoint whoever it is that you recommend for the 250th, but there is a vote
so
to appoint and solidify that Mary will be there. Their point.
just get a so moved on that one.
So moved.
So move.
Is there a
Yes.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Congratulations, Mary.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congrats.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mary,
Thank you for your service.
I think we should give her a hand.
Outstanding.
And
Thanks,
we are
Mary.
at the end of the boards and commissions.
We are at the end of
We
the boards
are.
and commissions, and we actually had an interview earlier for the North and East Burial Grounds Commission. So I include that with this comment, which is this council always says, thank you. Thank you for taking the time and effort away from your family and friends to give back to the community. Bristol is in large part what it is because of the efforts that our citizens, men and women of Bristol, give back to its community. So this council says thank you. Thanks, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is I1. This is Administrator Contenti, and this is in regard to the Reynolds School, Bristol Warren Regional School District, please.
Mr. Administrator?
The school district at the building committee meetings have spoken about moving the administration building to Hugh Cole. However, won't be ready for another 2 years. So they're asking to extend their lease for 2 years at Reynolds School, second floor. So we have a draft lease there. I'm just looking for approval to move forward with it.
I make a motion that we allow the town administrator to go ahead and sign off on the lease with the school department.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The chairman and members of the council, the next item is the Bristol County Water Authority Board of Directors. This is with an update of the current projects and initiatives as requested by the council at the last meeting.
Hello. Come on up, please. So before you start, this council says thank you for coming in tonight to give us an update. This was requested by Councilman Texera, wanted by all. It's been a while since we've talked with all of you, and it's looking forward to getting an update from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all, councilors, for inviting us. I look forward to it. A suggestion that I made to one of the councilors was perhaps we should be on the agenda on a regular basis, maybe in September or May. And we'll be glad to come in on a regular basis. And that way we'll all be looking forward to that day that we come in here. But in any case.
We like the surprise.
You like
So,
the-
yeah. No, I'm kidding. No. It's a good idea, actually.
Whatever your pleasure is,
No, it's a
Mr.
good idea.
Chairman, we'll come here every month. What we want to do today is give you a quick overview of some projects that we have going on at the Bristol County Water Authority and some programs, as well as an issue or two. With me tonight, you know them because you appointed them, as Richard Fournier and Bob Martin. They're both going to assist me.
Who was that again, please? Oh, no. Hi, Chief. How you doing?
And Richard Fournier. And any case, one of the things where it's actually a good time for us to come here to make a presentation because we have our annual report was just completed and it's actually on your agenda as a separate item, but we'll probably be rolling it all together into one. And the annual report is a really good way to get the message across to the general public and what we do on a daily basis and what we do on an annual basis, where we're making some great strides in providing good quality water in sufficient quantities to the residents in Bristol County. It also is the formal way of presenting our financial statement. And Richard will give you some insight into that in a few moments. I'm very proud of the work that we do to try to educate the public and to give information out to the public. We do it in a lot of different ways. We have a webpage, which I think is very good. Almost everything you want to know about the Bristol County Water Authority, you can find out on that webpage. And we also have a Facebook page. We also file, as we're required to do, as the council is required to do, is submit all of our minutes and notices of meetings to the Secretary of State. We also I produce what's always been called the Tri-Town Report, which is a short summary report that goes out on a monthly basis after our monthly board meeting, summarizing the actions that we took and highlighting what might be of value to you as councilors, talking to the residents in the town and so forth. This is the annual report. You should have all received a copy of that. There were a couple of back here I noticed tonight for distribution to the public. I added another 8, I think, to the pile back there. And this is also distributed to all elected officials, as well as the public libraries within the area. And it's available on request. And any member of the public can come to the Bristol County Water Authority offices during business hours and come in and talk to almost any staff member about problems they're having or issues that might be cropping up related to water, relating to billing and so forth. And the staff is very good at responding and giving information back quickly. With that opening done, I'll ask Richard to give you some insight into our financial report.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As you recall, I'm the new kid on the block in terms of being the most recent appointment. I must say I've been favorably impressed since I've joined with the professionalism of the board and of the management team. I trust you haven't read all 67 pages that are in here yet. We'll try to narrow it down to something fairly brief here. The fiscal year end is February 28th, so it's the audited financial statements were recently completed and presented to the board. They were an unqualified or clean opinion. So the financial statements are in good stead. The organization has no internal control issues, deficiencies and the like. The balance sheet, the assets less the liabilities is quite strong, very manageable amount of debt with a high debt service coverage. So things are quite strong there. About $17 million in revenue last year with about a $4 million profit. Most of that profit is being put back into a lot of the capital improvements. Some of those projects Juan will be talking about with you in a moment. As we look at the current year, which we're now about 5 months into, the budget's pretty much on track. We've had a little bit less rain, or a little bit too much rain, I guess, this year. So I would suspect that people aren't watering their lawns quite as much this summer as is normally the case. So I think that'll impact the budget, but I think the budget is will probably be, the actual will probably be pretty much on track with budget by the end of the year, notwithstanding that. But I think that's it in a nutshell, as it relates to the financial position. I think it's pretty strong and it's in a good state to operate the system as well as handle a lot of the capital improvement projects that are required going forward. So.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Bob Martin. First
Good
word,
evening, Chief.
dams. The dams are gone. Just as a starting point, Nathan, they're gone.
It disappoints me greatly.
I understand.
It continues to disappoint me greatly. But we'll end on a positive, right?
Yes, sir.
Outstanding.
Damn.
The dams were, the water from the dams ceased to be used in 2011. Beyond economical repair for any of the facilities to rejuvenate it and process the water in a good sense, because the water was beyond usable because it was brackish and various things like that. So the process went forward to remove the dams. Most of the funding to do that were through grants, from various organizations. I don't know if anybody got a chance to read the Gazette last week from Warren, but there was a great article in there from all the people that were participating, and it would save the bay and so on and so forth. So we're back to being an original piece of land. If you go by and it's low tide, it's a mud flat. But as time proceeds, according to the way they talk about it, it'll return to something. And I use the analogy, if you look at the Tuisset inlets, all up to Kiki, that's what it'll go back to. They're doing plantings now. We could see new marine life in there, the crabs, everything's starting to move back in there and stuff. And it'll be similar to what you see across the break, the Kiki. Why did we have to do it? There was a lot of reasons, but one of them, it was the cost of repair. That was way out of line. And they were getting written up for it. If you see the state rights, I think it's the DEM comes out with a dam report. Your dam needs repair, and it was just not economically feasible. So they're gone. And I apologize. The other good thing, the pump station at the corner of Tupelo and Hope Street. It's online. Aaron, how do you like it?
I can't tell the difference.
You can't? Oh, wow. I don't know. I'd ask the administrator.
Well, I'm kind of down at the bottom of the hill.
You get enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen on Betsy Drive a marked increase in pressure. In fact, I'm gonna switch my shower heads. I'm 1.5 gallons per, is it minute? You know, I'm gonna look for 1 because I think my water bill is gonna go way up. So,
Well,
Chief, how does that affect the residents of San Francisco?
that should be an improvement right now.
Okay.
Myself, I live off of Fatima, between Fatima and Sherman Avenue. I shut my pump off. Okay, I had a pump for, I can't tell you how many years.
That's really
It's
good
gone.
news.
So it is very good. There's been one drawback. I think when it first started, we popped a line in one of the buildings on Broad Common, but it was just a bad solder joint. Back and everything's online. The area off of Gooding Avenue is not online with the high pressure system yet. They found a bad pipe in there. They're gonna analyze it, find out what's going on with it. before they go back and turn it on. So Gooding Avenue, and I think it's down Naomi and up this Andrews, Dartmouth and Dixon would catch it, so. But that is a good thing. Some of the businesses that you see along Blue Boulevard, Broad Common, and anywhere in there, the boat builders and so on and so forth. The possibility is, as they go forward, they might not need to replace their fire pumps. Significant dollar item, but because of the increased pressure and volume that they're getting, they should be able to just have a sprinkler system without the addition of a fire pump. So that's, to me, that's very good.
That's fairly good.
So onward and upward, so.
It's the best looking pump house I've ever seen. So I just want to let you know, I just think it's hands down, just marvel. It looks great.
They had to have it, so it blended with the neighborhood.
Oh,
Juan lived
it-
across the street, he drove that.
Wow.
Oh, no. But it does blend in nice. They're doing some, if you notice, there's a big chain link fence to the west side of it. And they're gonna have some plantings there. That's in the event of a power failure, there's a giant diesel in there that would take care of everything. So it's like it'd be a sound barrier out there, so.
Are there any other pump houses planned, or is this it? It's just,
I believe that takes care of the northeast end of Bristol, and
Okay.
last time I asked, in the future, they have to take care of the northwest section of Bristol.
Okay.
Down off of Beach, Aaron, Peck Avenue, and go in
Yeah.
that direction.
Yeah.
So that's a future thing. They're
Future
paving the roads
project.
now, so that's a minimum 5-year lookout.
So
course.
this pump station does not affect that area. Is that correct?
It affects the area from the end of Tupelo down to Metacom, across
Gotcha.
Broad Common, down Gooding, and the northeast corner of Bristol.
Thank you.
I don't know if they could tap off of that and feed the other side, because there's some giant pumps in there, but that's somebody else's plan. I can't do that.
Thank you.
And I
There's-
can-
Oops. No, it's me, Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. First of all, thank you for taking the time for being here this evening and, appraise us of what's going on. I have a question regarding redundancy. Now that that system is offline, done and over with, what do we have now between East Providence, Pawtucket? What are the backups?
If I could.
Or
throw-
the main sources in backup?
I'm gonna probably throw it over the net, with the pickleball back to Juan, because he's gonna discuss that.
Okay,
But main source is still our one line from Situate through Providence to us. And if we have an issue with our one line, we're backed up with East Providence. But as you say, Pawtucket is on the table, and Juan's gonna talk about that.
thank you.
I think he summed it up pretty well. You look at the history of Bristol County Water Authority, and one of the major projects that came online many years ago now was the Cross Bay Pipeline. And the reason for doing that was to get a better water supply. And as we did that, we realized that more and more of the problems with the water quality associated with the original source. That has been abandoned now since 2011, and we're not going back to that, unfortunately, for any reason at all, because we're pursuing a new connection with Pawtucket. Now, that's a 2-phase project. The first phase, we completed it. No big fanfare or anything. We made a connection in with East Providence. East Providence also has their version of a Cross Bay pipeline much further up bay, or actually into the Providence River, just south of 195 in that area. No, it's not in conflict with the Washington Bridge. And so we have a connection with East Providence, so that if tomorrow there was a problem with the Cross Bay pipeline, all we have to do is turn a few valves and we'd be able to get water through the East Providence connection that they have in place presently. So that was phase one of getting more of a redundancy in the system. Phase two is an actual connection with the city of Pawtucket's water system. As you may know, I grew up in Pawtucket, and Pawtucket water has always been legendarily bad. But they had a complete revamping of the system, spent, I don't know, over $100 million in putting a new treatment plant and everything. And it is a very state-of-the-art system now. So we are in the design phase right now of moving forward on that project. We're not really announcing a day when that will be completed at this point, but it's moving ahead on schedule. It's going to require crossing 195, going up Pawtucket Avenue, doing some railroad crossings. It's a lot of engineering that's involved with it, but the project is moving ahead. We have funding for this, and we're actually hoping for back funding that will happen through state grants and infrastructure monies and so forth. But we have all the we have agreements in place with the city of East Providence. We have an agreement that is on the agenda for this coming board meeting. It was discussed at the last board meeting, and that agreement will be with the city of Pawtucket, and the attorneys are working back and forth to iron out all the details on what that agreement will be like. So that project definitely is moving forward. And that's a big project. And we always talk about the big projects, but there are lots of small projects that we're doing on a daily basis that you may see from time to time and say, what are they doing? Why is this road being torn up? Well, what we have in our budget now, and we've made a decision a year or two ago, that we're going to continually look at our distribution system and continue to upgrade it where it's needed and put the money in the budget so that we can do that. And so we're spending like a little over $1 million a year in doing projects within the within the three towns that you get inconvenienced by from time to time. Right now, I believe we've started work on State Street. And that I've been told there's only going to be about a month-long project, but it's going to be a major change in that area. The water system is in generally great condition, but it's old in a lot of areas, and you do need to replace things. And we want to have an ongoing plan, and we do have an ongoing plan that every year we're going to be replacing more and more of the system. So that's going ahead well. Another area where is going to make a considerable difference, and it's in a health-related issues, is lead pipes. And you hear about that all across the country. Fortunately, in Bristol County, we don't have a lot of that, but we have maybe about 130, and I may have that number not exact, connections, and they may be small sections within a house. And there can also be a number of gooseneck connections, as they're called, within our system that connects to the house. Well, we have a program right now where we have a contractor that is replacing all of our gooseneck connections, getting rid of the lead. And we also have a program right now where we will provide no interest 5-year loans to homeowners to replace their lead pipes. And we estimate that, that can cost maybe about $5,000 a household. There's not a lot of them out there, but we have money available to homeowners. And I've tried to put that in the Tri-Town reports and emphasize that. And we've been getting some good cooperation. It's going to take a while before people really catch on that they need to do this, or they can get the money, get free money in these days of high interest. Here's something that you can get done at your house and resolve a potential.
Juan, how
health
would
issue.
a resident
Thank you.
take the next step if they were
They just call-
interested?
They just call the Bristol County Water Authority, set up an appointment, and engineers and administrators will meet with them and go over the program and outline what they have to do another great part of the program is we have a contractor ready to go. So you don't have to go out and hire a contractor and figure out, can they do the job? Are they going to do a good job? It's our contractor.
And how would a resident know that they have lead?
We've notified all of them.
You've done that
All
already.
the 130 of them, or whatever the exact number is, have been sent notification. Because part of the program, and The EPA had changed standards recently, and it came down to the states, and the states then notified all of the water agencies. You have to do an inventory. You have to come up with a number of who has lead service and so forth. And so we had that information actually in the database already. And we just had to refine it, make sure it was correct, and we're moving forward. But I think we have maybe only a few people right now that are participating, but I'm sure it'll grow.
So if I understand you right, the resident would have received a notification.
That's
The
right.
ballpark number is about 130 residents.
That's
If
correct.
you got that
Now, I'm not saying-
notification, then the resident could reach out to you,
Yes.
and then you'll explain what options are available to them
Right.
through BCWA, including using a contractor that you're already comfortable with.
That's correct.
Perfect. Okay.
Can I just follow up on that? Like, because I was gonna ask the same question. Is this the lead pipes in the street leading into your house, or is this like pipes in your house?
It's in your house.
Okay.
It's usually around the meter. People could have more than we know about, but the area where we're concerned about is what we've identified. But typically, if you have it there, you probably have it elsewhere. But you know, just because you have an old house doesn't mean you have old plumbing. I lived in a 260-year-old house. I did not have any lead pipes in the house, but my buyer wanted me to do some work on my water line. I discovered I had lead pipe outside of my house. And if this program had been in place, I could have applied for the loan, but it wasn't in place at the time. So anyway.
Thank you.
And the other thing, the one other thing that I wanted to bring up, and we're certainly open to questions, is that we have typically with a public agency, if you're involved with the lawsuit and somebody comes up to you and asks you a question about the lawsuit, you say, I'm sorry, it's in litigation. I'm not going to give you any information regarding that. Well, we've been in litigation for some time, and it is actually public knowledge that we've been in this litigation. And the reason I'm going to give you some information about this is because the litigant, the people who sued us, decided to go to the press and release some information. So we felt, our attorney felt, when contacted by the press, that we should respond accordingly. And he did respond in a to the reporter. I don't know what the reporter is doing with the information at this point, but I just wanted to mention this to you. It's a large user within the town of Bristol. It's a residential large user. It is North Farm condominiums. And the thumbnail sketch here, and I have to be careful here because anything I say will be held against me, but everything right now, there's been a Supreme Court decision. There's been a lot of Superior Court decisions. Those are all public. And so what I'm going to tell you is basically from the public record. Now, if you go back 1973 thereabouts, that's when North Farm started to develop. And now there's about 300 condos there. When they first started to develop that, they came to the Bristol County Water Authority way before I was ever involved. Way before I think almost anybody who's at Bristol County Water Authority now, including the board members, were ever involved. They came to Bristol County Water Authority and say, hey, we'll give you easements, put some water lines in here so we can have water. Bristol County agreed to do that. And life was good. 20 years went by. Everybody in the condo complex, just like you living in an individual home, had a water meter, and they paid the water bill to us directly. Then one day a pipe broke. And everybody wondered why, who was responsible for this. Now, I have to back up a second. Before the pipe broke, OSHA came into North Farm and inspected all of the meter pits that were in there. And they said to Bristol County Water Authority, these meter pits are unsafe. They all have to be rebuilt. Well, they weren't our meter pits. They were North Farm's. North Farm was facing $100,000 or thereabouts bill to replace these. So they came to us and said, can we put in a master meter that would serve all of 300 homes and do away with the individual meters? And that way we don't have to fix the master meters. Well, they proceeded on that route with the approval, but no written documentation from the Bristol County Water Authority, no approval by the board. It was just that we're going to do this. Is it okay? Yes. And they put it in and they turned it over to us. And there we were now billing the North Farm condominium complex as opposed to 300 condos. Then the pipe broke. So everybody says, oh, hey, Bristol County, come and fix this pipe. Now, when you have a master meter, typically how it's done, you go anywhere in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. If you're serving somebody with a master meter, downstream of that master meter is the property owner's responsibility. So it'd be similar to the meter in your house. Your pipe breaks inside your house, that's your responsibility. I am responsible outside and upstream from that meter. So there was a lawsuit. And they were trying to recover the costs that they had to make the fix as they did. And they said to us, but you're responsible for this. And we said, no, we're not. It's a master meter. We don't get responsible. And they said, they argued with us and then they filed a lawsuit against us. And while they were in the lawsuit, about 2015, 17, thereabouts, we had a rate increase. They filed another lawsuit against us saying that it was illegal for us to even charge them because at the time the master meter was out of service and we were sending out an estimated bill. Just like we would do with any of you. Sometimes you get an estimated bill from National Grid. But here they were saying to the court, it's illegal for Bristol County Water Authority to charge us for water. And the court actually said, well, that's my interpretation. We won in Superior Court. And then they took us to Supreme Court. The long story gets short now. And we got a decision from the Supreme Court just recently. And they said, Bristol County can charge you for the water. And the meter works now. And they made the decision to, the Superior Court told them, we want you to put $150,000 aside just in case you don't win your case, you'll be able to pay Bristol County. So they did that. They were required to do it by the courts. Now, 7 years later, and during this time, they made the decision not to pay us. They owe us a lot of money now. And they're saying we got the Supreme Court decision. They have filed another lawsuit. And we're probably going to be going to arbitration or something, which we did probably 20 years ago, and nothing came out of that. We could never get them to agree to anything. So I'm telling you this because it's going to be in the paper sooner or later. And this is the abridged story from me. There may be some minor tweaks of wording that should be better on my part, but I'm not an attorney. My attorney probably would say you shouldn't have said something. But the point here is they owe us over $500,000. And in the meantime, we're still paying our bills. And guess what? We have the money from somebody to pay those bills. And how can any user, any customer, we have 17,000 customers. So maybe the other 16,999 customers say to us, we don't want to pay your bill. So, have any questions?
I do. The report that we get from you on a monthly basis, I don't recall ever seeing the pending litigation. And I apologize if I would
Yeah,
have missed that.
You would not have seen that because they were always discussions in executive session. And it was in the June 27th report, item 7, I have right here. Rhode Island Supreme Court decision on North Farm Homeowners Association versus BCWA. And I say, this is a generalized, non-legal overview, not a comprehensive summary and lawsuit. And what we did in the next month, which I think you probably just got this week, there was a follow-up and it said that we had gave notice to North Farm that they had 30 days to pay us or we shut their water off. Now, we were able to reclaim the $150,000 that was put in escrow in the courts. So that reduced the amount of money that they owed us, but now they filed in court again and got a restraining order. So the beat goes on.
So because it was executive session, that's reasonable. Okay. All
Right.
Council,
But
questions?
you got the information when it became public, if you will, when the order was issued by the courts.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Juan, for informing us and bringing us up to speed on this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. I think it's an important issue.
Any other questions about anything about Bristol County Water Authority?
No.
You were very comprehensive.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All of you.
All three of you.
All three of you.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
do.
Thank you, Juan.
Thank you again.
So we just need a motion to receive and file.
Receive and file.
Second?
Motion made by Tony, seconded by
Good night,
Tim.
Chief.
Any
Good
discussion?
night, all. Thank you again.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is K2. This is the Bristol County Water Authority Fiscal Year 2024 Annual Report from March 1st, 2023 to February 29, 2024.
Receive and file.
Yes.
Second?
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Motion would be to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42465A2 with regard to lifetime contracts litigation, 42465A5 regarding lease extension with A&R Marine, and 42465A5 regarding the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony as stated. Any discussion? This ends the regular portion, televised portion of the meeting. We are now going to go into executive session and come out at the end of executive session to public session to close the meeting. But this will end the Zoom portion of it. So good night, everyone. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.